1059 The Region, in partnership with RE/MAX Prime Properties, present On the Market, real estate advice that works for you. Have a real estate question? Call us at 416-335-1059. Tweet us at 1059 The Region or email us at info@1059theregion.com.
This is 1059 The Region. I'm Tina Cortez with On the Market, York Region's exclusive radio real estate show. The host of On the Market and owner of RE/MAX Prime Properties is Asif Khan. Hello, Asif.
Hello, Tina.
And now, we've talked a great deal on this show about new home builders and sellers who unfairly cancel a project or purchase agreement. Now the province plans to increase fines, with the penalty money going to the victims.
That's right, Tina, and we've heard so much about this, especially in the last couple of years. And with further details, we have Kaleed, Rasheed, Minister of Public and Business Service Delivery. Minister Rasheed, thank you for joining On the Market.
Thank you so much for having me.
Minister Rasheed, please tell us about the stiffer fines that will be coming out for home builders that unfairly cancel projects.
Yes, so look, what we are doing is that we are offering stronger protection for new home buyers by cracking down on unethical developers with harsh new fines. So what we are doing now is that we are doubling the maximum fine for unethical builders who unfairly cancel contracts from $25,000 to $50,000. And for the very first time ever, the money from these penalties will actually go back to the victim.
And how does that actually happen, Minister?
Yes. So what's going to happen is that we have an administrative authority called HCRA, Home Construction Regulatory Authority, and we are empowering them because they are the ones who will be making the decision based on a case-by-case basis. They will be working with the individuals who may have been the victims or along with the builders.
And quite often, these home purchasers or new build purchasers have been waiting for months or years in order to realize their dream home ownership. So how do you feel that these stiffer penalties will deter builders from having to delay or cancel these projects?
Yes. So look, the reasons why we brought these penalties forward is to actually deter individuals or corporations when they decide to cancel a project. So now what we are doing is that we are empowering our courts by doubling the maximum financial penalties for repeat offenders of the New Home Construction Licensing Act, which means that individuals will face charges of $100,000 and corporations of $500,000. But also individuals may also face a sentence of up to 2 years in prison. We are hoping that, the end, and also part of the announcement is that their licenses will be canceled. So this will actually make all these unethical or bad actors think twice before making a decision.
And often the builder will say that they're canceling a project due to permit issues or increased costs or other reasons. How then will the province or regulating body, how will they determine if the builder is on the up and up or if they're just canceling a project because, hey, they think they can resell each unit for more money?
So great question. The reason why we are empowering HCRA, Home Construction Regulatory Authority, is to look at these cases or these cancellations on a case-by-case basis. So they have to make that determination whether a project was canceled unfairly. And right now, we as a government and Premier Ford has been very clear that we are working with municipalities to make sure that these projects are done. So again, this announcement is for builders who are have canceled these projects just because they wanted to make more money. That Premier Ford has been very clear about this. I have been very clear about this, that this is unacceptable. And we have heard stories from new home buyers, and we are coming hard on it now.
And when these projects are canceled, the buyers are out. They do receive their deposit back in most instances. However, they've lost opportunity cost. And with that, this money is able to be delivered to the purchasers themselves. How long will that process take in order for the buyers to receive the money from the fine?
Great question, Art. So it's on a case-by-case basis, but as I said earlier, that this is the first time that the funds, even the penalties, are going to be going back into the pockets of the affected individuals. And but what the whole idea of this policy is to make sure that these things do not happen again. As the province move into the bold agenda of building 1.5 million homes, we want to make sure that every home is built in our province, and this policy will deter unethical or bad actors who are in the market just to hurt individuals or families, because every family deserves a home in our province.
Now, these are proposed changes to the new Home Construction Licensing Act. When will these changes and fines actually be in place?
So what's happening right now is that we are allowing HCRA to impose these financial penalties retroactively to April 2022. And hopefully we're going to be making sure that these are done in a timely manner, again, case-by-case basis.
And how does the consumer start this process? Is it a formal complaint to you, to the HCRA? How does the process start, and how is it moved along?
No, look, another great question. It has to formally have a complaint launched with HCRA, and that's why we are empowering Home Construction Regulatory Authority to make this determination. But it's honestly, it's a very easy process, and we want to make sure that the affected individuals or families are taken care of.
And then, sir, what would be your message to buyers?
My message to buyers is that the province or a Premier Ford will not be tolerating these kinds of unethical behaviors by builders. This government, Premier Ford, we have your back, and that's why we are bringing these protections forward, because we have heard now too many times, and Premier Ford has given me clear direction that this is unacceptable, and we need to help the little people out there.
And thank you so much for stepping up to help our consumers and purchasers who are often left in the dark when something like this happens. Minister Rasheed, thank you so much for joining us and for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Also from the provincial government this week, they are moving forward with legislation it says will help make buying a home more affordable. Steve Clark, the Minister for Municipal Affairs and Housing, outlined the government's plan to build more homes faster.
We're going to be freezing, reducing, and exempting government charges. For example, if we want to ensure affordable housing and inclusionary zoning units, we want to make sure they're exempt from development charges, from parkland dedication fees, and from community benefits charges. We also want to exempt nonprofit housing so that they are also exempt from development charges and parkland dedication fees. We want to reduce development charges for rental construction with even deeper discounts for family-sized units.
Asif, what's your take on this announcement?
I think it's great news, Tina. I think the home crisis is real, and we do not have enough inventory. And the government has been talking about increasing, home building and making it easier for builders to cut through the red tape and be able to provide a product in a shorter period of time. And that's exactly what we need. We are not only in a crunch for resale housing or new builds, but also rental housing. And I think this announcement really does address the fact that the government is ready to step up and put their money where their mouth is and make things happen in regards to more building.
After the break, another rate hike and what it means to consumers. This is On the Market on 105.9 The Region.
Need to connect with Asif Khan from RE/MAX Prime Properties? Call him 416-985-KHAN. That's 416-985-5426. Or email asif@thehomeshop.ca. Now, back to On the Market on 105.9 The Region.
Welcome back to On the Market, York Region's radio real estate show. My co-host and our real estate expert is Asif Khan from RE/MAX Prime Properties. Now, Asif, earlier this week, the Bank of Canada raised its key rate by 0.5 percentage point to 3.75%. It is the 6th consecutive time the central bank has raised the interest rate this year in response to decades-high inflation.
That's right, Tina. And I think that surprised some people because they were expecting it to be a lot higher. And to discuss what this rate hike means for buyers and sellers is Colin Mason from the Mortgage Domain. Colin, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Colin, 0.5 point. That's pretty good news, wouldn't you say?
Well, in today's environment, it is definitely better news than what we were expecting. We were expecting 0.75 point. But I think, I don't want to create a negative tone to it, but I think there are still 1 or 2 more increases that we should expect. But the fact that it is a little lower, they didn't go as heavy on the move for this particular move, that I think is definitely encouraging.
And what is the impact on consumers and their mortgages?
Well, it continues to be to pressure those that have variable rate mortgages or any revolving lines of credits that are against secured against their house or that are leveraged against the prime rate. So this is definitely going to be more of an impact to those borrowers. Anybody that took a 5-year fixed mortgage or any fixed mortgage really isn't going to see a change. They're not going to see a change to their mortgage payments for sure until the mortgage comes up for renewal in however many years. And so whatever the rates are at that point is what they will have to deal with. So, lots can happen in the next couple of years. So, perhaps rates will slow down the increase, maybe even drop a little bit over the next few years. I think that's sort of what Asif and I have been saying, is that we expected them to go up a little bit more towards the holiday season. We were expecting that they were going to slow down the momentum a little bit, potentially end the increases at some point, hopefully in the foreseeable future. And then, we're hoping that it'll level off into the spring market. So I've spoken to many people in the know, Bay Street minds, that have said, expect another point. So, hopefully they're wrong, and they haven't, in the past they've missed the mark on a few of the numbers. This is definitely encouraging, because if it was 0.75 point, that would really only allow them to have, or if you maintain that 1% mindset, that would mean that there would only be 0.25%. I could see them maybe doing more. So it's definitely encouraging for the lower expected increase.
And Colin, what does this do for consumer confidence? I know that a lot of people thought the sky was falling with maybe another 0.75 or 1% increase. Having this 0.5 point increase, do you think this will get buyers back off that fence to say, okay, maybe it's slowing down now and it's a good time for me to get out there and start looking, because there may be some stability to the rates moving forward?
Yeah, it certainly is a more calm over what we've been dealing with over the last almost 12 months. It's definitely more encouraging for those that are looking at potentially getting into the market, that are kind of waiting to see what things do in terms of interest rates. I think you might see some people looking to get into the market using this as an excuse to say, okay, you know what, I think now that we want to stay ahead of the curve, so this is the time where we should start looking. Because if at the end of the day, if the rates are leveling off, then I think the theory is that there's going to start to be more of a buyer demand out there, which is going to ramp up the market on the buy side. So, and shift it to a more balanced market. There's not a lot of inventory on the market, as you have pointed out on many occasions as well. So it's a lot of buyers in the past, when rates were a lot lower, were finding themselves in a situation where they were just losing out on multiple offers. And then once the rates started to go up, it slowed that momentum down a little bit. And I think a lot were expecting that the market was going to soften significantly. Prices were going to drop significantly. They were going to get a bargain. But in the meantime, rates started to go up. So it's sort of a double-edged sword. And I think a lot of people are trying to figure out when the right time to get into the market is. But as you and I have spoken on many occasions, there's a lot of buyers out there, and they may be waiting for the right time to jump into the market. And if rates do start to show signs of leveling off, this might be the time.
And speaking of timing, the next rate announcement is expected in December. What do you think, or what are you telling your consumers, your clients, to do right now?
Well, prepare for the worst and hope for the best kind of scenario is the way it's been over the last several months. I do think that you may see perhaps, say, a quarter of a point would be, to fall in line with what we thought, 3/4 and maybe a half or a quarter. So, I would stick with probably expecting that the rates are going to go up a little bit more. It would definitely be encouraging if the next increase was somewhere in and around a quarter, or, of course, no increase, but I think that might be a little optimistic.
Colin, tell us a little bit about trigger rates. What does a trigger rate mean, and are we going to be seeing people in trouble because of the trigger rate?
I think that would have been something that would have been more of an issue. I think that ship has sailed, so to speak. The trigger rate is for certain variable type products. It's actually a variable rate mortgage rather than an adjustable rate mortgage. An adjustable rate mortgage, basically, for those that are designed with that structure for an adjustable rate mortgage, anytime there's a rate increase, your payment will go up accordingly and down if rates drop. So with a trigger rate, it's a variable rate mortgage, gives you a slightly larger, I call it kind of like a bubble payment, where it's a little bit more than what the actual mortgage payment works out to based on the interest rate that you have. And then the trigger rate kicks in when you're tipping the scales to become closer to an interest-only mortgage payment. And that's to make sure that you maintain your amortization and that your mortgage does continue to go down the principal. So the trigger payment will then increase your mortgage payments to accommodate for that. So, I think that was more of a concern when rates were going up. I think that this particular rate increase, I don't think you're going to see too much of an impact there. I mean, it'll definitely be a factor for everybody because as rates go up, so does their payment. Again, this is on anybody that has a variable rate mortgage or anything with a line of credit that is based on the prime lending rate. They're going to see it's going to be more expensive. But, on the flip side, I always like to put a little bit of a positive spin on anything if I can. And, we're in a point of time. So in 6 to 8 months or 18 months or even 24 months, depending on when the rates level off and then start to come back down, when they do come down, rates will so will your payment. So, I don't think it's doom and gloom. Obviously, everybody's financial situation is very unique, so it might be doom and gloom for somebody that's really living on the edge, and this has just pushed them over the top. But for those that have sort of been able to manage their affairs and they've worked within their means, I think this is a period of time where, it's going to be a little tougher, more expensive for them to carry their mortgage, but the positive of their variable rate mortgage to offset the disadvantages while your payment can go up, it can also come down when rates drop. One last thing that I would add to that, though, is that I think, this is what we've been telling all of our clients, is that I really think that you should get out of your mind if you think that interest rates are going to drop down as low as they were. During the pandemic, that was extenuating circumstances, and that I don't think we're going to see those types of rates again. But definitely, rates may drop a little bit, and it'll certainly ease a little bit of the pressure.
And thank you for that positive spin. For those listeners, though, who maybe have a mortgage coming up for renewal soon, should they be worried? Should they panic? What do you suggest that they do?
Yeah, those people are certainly, they're coming out of, they've renewed, or their last renewal, or if they're coming out of a 5-year mortgage, their rates were a lot lower. They are going to be in for a surprise. But, that's what the stress test that was introduced in, with the B20 regulations that was introduced, the stress test concept was to ensure that people were going to be, or at least help people prepare for the likelihood of interest rates increasing by the time their mortgage comes up for renewal. So let's say you said it had a 3% interest rate, your qualifying rate would have, or your stress test rate would have created a little bit of a buffer, or a significant enough buffer that would allow you to sort of be able to manage a higher renewal rate. So I think, again, it's all about how tight people are running their finances. If it's tight, they're going to feel the pinch, because they're going to be renewing at interest rates that are going to be well higher than what they are used to. But if the stress test it'll be a true testament to whether or not it worked, because those people should be able to, under the concept of the stress test, should be able to renew and manage the payments.
Colin, always great information, and always great to have you on the market. Thank you for joining us. If people want to connect with you and find out their situation for themselves, how do they contact you?
They can just find us online at themortgagedomain.com, or they can just find me online, Colin Mason, at The Mortgage Domain. And I can give you my phone number. It's very easy, 416-676-6777.
Thank you very much, and we look forward to having you on again.
Great, thank you.
After the break, your real estate questions. This is On the Market on 105.9 The Region. Stay with us.
Need to connect with Asif Khan from RE/MAX Prime Properties? Call him, 416-985-KHAN. That's 416-985-5426. Or email asif@thehomeshop.ca. Now, back to On the Market on 105.9 The Region.
Welcome back to On the Market, York Region's exclusive radio real estate show on 105.9 The Region. Time now for our listener questions. First up, Linda in Markham. She wants to know if you think an open house is a good marketing tool, or should her agent be using other options to sell her home? Asif?
Great question, Linda. And, the thing is, right now, open houses are effective because you're starting to get people back out there and they're traveling around. So it is a good marketing tool. It does provide exposure and lets people know that the house is available. And if people are driving around and looking at different areas that they may want to live in and they see an open house, they'll stop in and they'll let you know if they're working with an agent or not, or let your realtor know. But it is a good way for exposure. It's with all the virtual tours and everything that's been out there for the last couple of years, people have gotten used to seeing those and going through those on their computer or their phone. But the open house just allows them to walk through the house for a look and feel of how it is in person. And we are starting to get a lot of traffic at open houses over the last few weeks.
At what point in the contract does the open house happen? Does it happen as soon as the home is listed or a little while after? What's your take on that?
It's usually the first weekend when the home is listed is when you want to do that open house. Now, the other thing to remember is some people will want to do an open house every weekend, and they'll tell their realtor, please do an open house every weekend until this sells. Now, with homes staying on the market for 30, 40, 50 days right now, that's a lot of open houses, and then it attracts negative attention. So now you've got people looking at this and saying, wow, they're having another open house. They're having another open house. It still hasn't sold. So you have to be careful. We usually say, 1 or 2 open houses should be the max. The first one, you usually get all the nosy neighbors come through your property, but you do get some buyers and potential sellers in your area coming through as well to see how you've stacked up against their place. So the traffic has been great over the last few weeks for open houses.
And when you say attracting negative attention, does that mean people start to think, well, it hasn't sold, what's wrong with this place?
Yeah, and then you'll get people coming in and lowballing and thinking that they can get a deal and wondering, what's wrong? Why hasn't it sold? The other one sold, in March or April in 3 days, and this one's been on for 2 or 3 weeks. The average days on market right now is over 20, so that's not abnormal for a home to be sitting, but you don't want to have that negative attention, and most of the people that want to see the home will come through when it's first listed. Everyone's on the MLS, everyone's getting updates as houses come on the market, so they're going to know when your house is on the market.
And we're going through this sort of spell of really nice, glorious fall weather. Do you think the open house will continue for a couple more weeks, or do you expect it to, be with us until the end of the year, even when it gets a bit snowy and dreary out there?
Well, it's certainly weather dependent for open houses. So if you do have a snowy day or a rainy day, people just don't want to get out and walk into open houses. So when the weather is good, it's great weather for an open house, and you're going to get people just walking around or going for a walk. And even if they're nosy neighbors, they may walk in and love the house and decide that that's where they want to live. So when the weather is good, you do get a lot more people attending, and that helps your cause. If they walk in and see 3 or 4 people waiting to get into the house, they're going to, it's fear of missing out. So they're going to say, wow, this is where I want to be, and they'll try to get in a decent offer right away.
Back to our listener questions. Next, Bindi in Vaughan is asking if the plan for increased condos in York Region will mean a price drop for larger units. Asif?
Not necessarily. I mean, right now there's a lot of demand for condos in York Region, and as the subway starts to come north and it's going to come up towards Highway 7, you're just going to start to see more and more condos hit the Highway 7 area, the Yonge Street corridor. So you're going to get more and more condos over the next 10 years or so. It doesn't mean that there would be a price drop or a price correction for the larger units or anything like that. Larger units are in high demand right now. Most of the new buildings will have 1+1s, 2 bedrooms, maybe 2+1, but 3 bedrooms are very rare. And the size of the condos seems to be getting smaller and smaller. I know this week we received some emails of some new construction, and their 1 bedroom or 1+1 condos are 450 and 487 square feet. So if you do have one that's 900 or 1,000 square feet in York Region, the demand will always be there, and the price will hold up.
What can you tell us in terms of inventory levels?
Right now in York Region, we're sitting at just over 2 months of inventory. So if you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would say, wow, our inventory is historically low. But what happened was over the course of the pandemic years, over 2020, 2021, we were seeing inventory levels of half a month or 0.75 months of inventory. And what that did was it really helped to increase bidding wars and multiple offers on properties because there was nothing for purchasers to go out and grab. Now that we're seeing 2.5 months of inventory or 2.3 months of inventory in Markham, you're starting to have that feel that there's a lot more inventory out there, but realistically, we still don't have enough inventory. We should be between 4 and 6 months for a normal market, and that's when it's balanced. Anything over 6 months turns into a buyer's market. So it shows you that even though the perception is that it's a buyer's market right now, we are not even close to being in a buyer's market. We just have a more favorable market for buyers than we did a little while ago.
As a reminder, if you have questions for On the Market, hit send anytime to info@1059theregion.com. But Asif, if our listeners prefer to contact you directly, how can they do that?
They can reach me at 416-985-CON. That's 416-985-5426.
If you missed any part of our show, go to 1059theregion.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Audible. I'm Tina Cortez. Thank you for listening.
Need to connect with Asif Khan from RE/MAX Prime Properties? Call him 416-985-KHAN. That's 416-985-5426. Or email asif@thehomeshop.ca.